Frutiger Aero is a broad term that encompasses many modes of 2000s and early 2010s design. Today, I decided to go in-depth and further define the Frutiger Aero aesthetic and its many subcategories. I did talk about one sub-aesthetic last time, which was funky seasons, but I've noticed two more that seem to crop up. The first is what I call eco. This type of Frutiger Aero has a green and environmental flavor to it, and was popular back in the days when global warming, recycling, sustainability, and going green was the big thing. The second sub-aesthetic is something that the subreddit actually coined as Frutiger Metro. Unlike classic Frutiger Aero, which is full of depth and texture, Frutiger Metro is flat. It was almost like it was our first taste of flat minimalism. Its most notable appearance was in Windows 8, alongside its Metro aesthetic, hence Frutiger Metro. But there were examples of it from before then, like the late 2000s Skype design, among others. Besides these two sub-aesthetics, there are many other more niche areas of design where the use of Frutiger Aero was quite prevalent. The first that comes to mind are textbooks and workbooks. Frutiger Aero was such a common design choice for school books, especially science and math. And although most new printings don't use it anymore, lots of schools keep their old textbooks in circulation for many years, which means that Frutiger Aero schoolbooks are still relatively commonplace. Next is stock images. Using Photoshop and GIMP to create Frutiger Aero-like scenes and designs was one of the de facto styles for stock photos during this era. While most companies opted for Frutiger Aero-like packaging during this era, there are a few product categories that stick with me in particular. The first are cleaning products. This is probably the area of design where Frutiger Aero was most prolific, and one of the few product categories that actually still uses it to this day. Unlike most other packaging that once utilized this aesthetic, miraculously, most cleaning brands have retained their Frutiger Aero look, probably because it suits the products category so well. Walking through the cleaning aisles at the store is like a blast to the past, and I really hope these companies don't feel pressured by the minimalist wave to change their beautiful designs. Drink and beverage packaging was, and still is, another huge employer of Frutiger Aero. The style was used on everything from water to juice to milk, and especially soft drink products like sodas and vending machines. The liquid aspect of this aesthetic really suits the drink and beverage scene, and like cleaning products, drinks are one of the last product types still using this design. Tech is another products category whose packaging leaned heavily Frutiger Aero. TV and monitor boxes, computers, consoles, phones, and most every other gadget used Frutiger Aero packaging. Perhaps the point of origin for this aesthetic, operating system branding and UI from the mid-2000s to the early 2010s, was iconic Frutiger Aero. Windows, Android, many Linux distros, Palm OS, and Symbian were the epitome of this UI design, with macOS and iOS having their own version of the look. One of the biggest users of Frutiger Aero design was no doubt the corporate world. From building architecture to office interiors to branding, PowerPoint templates, and the overall workplace environment, Frutiger Aero could be found everywhere. Many 2000s era constructions have a distinct look to them that goes hand in hand with the futuristic vibe of that era and, naturally, Frutiger Aero. Reflective metal and glass were common materials. Roofs that swooped in flowing shapes, large windows, and generally sleek and futuristic designs were chosen for schools, museums, office buildings, and skyscrapers. Other structural designs that cropped up during this era were those utopic-like early 2000s built suburbs that remind me of this aesthetic and go hand in hand with the fresh and utopic corporate world at this time. Others include wind turbines, solar panels, frozen yogurt shops, smoothie bars, and the interior graphic design of supermarkets and department stores. Certain newer and more high-budget schools were also employers of Frutiger Aero-like interiors and exteriors. It's interesting to note that teal, orange, and lime green, all tertiary colors, are often used in these educational settings. Clothing is more difficult to neatly associate with Frutiger Aero, but there are definitely some similarities and overlap that it shares with certain clothing from this era. Tertiary color palettes, flowery embellishments, and Frutiger Metro-like patterns are definitely reminiscent of Frutiger Aero. Besides its packaging, the physical design of tech products, such as TVs, media players, and earbuds, very much followed a Frutiger Aero style of design, with a futuristic and bubbly look. News bumpers, graphics, and branding was, and often still is, very glossy, depthful, and Aero-like. Many video games from this time period leaned into the Frutiger Aero look. For example, Mirror's Edge, The Blob, Child of Eden, Little Big Planet, and Flower. The Frutiger Aero vibe definitely has a musical component to it, which is kind of hard to describe, but it's the type of upbeat, corporate, digital-sounding music that you hear in the background of this video. The optimistic and electronic components of this type of music fully reflects the futuristic and utopic vibes characteristic of this era. Some music that I think fits the aesthetic is the Terraria day theme, and the music featured in the Day Made of Glass videos. Frutiger Aero encompassed every aspect of life during its era. It's challenging to sum up the music, design, architecture, technology, mindset, and overall zeitgeist of a whole time span into just one succinct word, but I believe that Frutiger Aero is the term that comes closest to capturing the spirit of the era.